The meeting come to order. We're fixing to begin a budget workshop of the Catula I.S.D. Board of Trustees. Today is August the 10th, 2020, and time is 5:33 p.m. We are at the Frank Newman Middle School at 608 Corridos Street, Catula, Texas. We'll begin with opening prayer. Sure.
Heavenly Father, we are thankful to be able to be here today. We thank you, Lord, for the many blessings you've blessed us with, and you've blessed our school in great ways. We ask you, Lord, that your presence continue to be with us as tonight we take care of the business of the school, Lord, and that we may do the things that's right and honorable in thy sight. Lord, we ask for your guidance and direction in everything we do. Be with us as we leave this place as well. Keep everyone safe. Keep everyone safe during this pandemic. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Just a quick notice of the public video conferencing pursuant to government ABIS temporary suspension of open meetings laws issued March the 16th, 2020 to advance the public health and health goals of limited face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing. This meeting will be conducted via video conferencing, which will be audible to the board and public and allow for a two-way communications. Electronic copy of the agenda may be viewed via Catula I.S.D. website at www.catulaisd.net. Will determine quorum's president. Let the record reflect that present at the library at middle school are Raquel Yanes, Robbie Ayala, Thomas Childers, Jamie Whitwell, and myself, Dionisio Ramirez. Those on Zoom present are Ms. Kim Hoff.
Yes, sir.
And Scott Reese. Mr. Scott Reese is absent. We do have a quorum. Did we have any citizens' comments for this one, Dr. Shields, or do we need to leave? That'll be fine. We'll begin with our action items on the agenda. The first item is item A, board training for the budget. And we will be reviewing salaries for administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, and auxiliary staff, review extracurricular, academic, economic, equity stipends and other stipends, review substitute teachers' pay, and review of other budgetary matters. Mr. Vela will be presenting this for us.
Mr. President, Dr. Seal, members of the board, we're going to go through basically the presentation that you have been given. And just want to tell you, it's not as exciting as it was last year. Remember last year we went to HB3 and everybody got information, we're going to get 5,000, we're going to get this, and we're going to get that, and the legislature kind of threw all these numbers around. And we went through the whole process of getting everything done, meeting criteria, and then promoting our budgets and our salaries according to what Senate Bill 3 required. This year it's a little bit quieter. We don't have Senate Bill 3, we don't have a legislative session, so we're kind of doing things ourselves the way we want to do them. But I do want to remind everybody that, you know, we had a salary survey last year, and basically what we do is we go every 2 to 3 years to do a salary survey from TASB. Even though we ourselves, every single year, we go out and we poll all the districts around us to see how we're comparing as far as salaries, and then we bring, as you recall, we bring that spreadsheet to you all so you can review. The only time we don't bring you our spreadsheet is when TASB does their survey, and then we bring you their survey that they bring us. So, having said that, we're going to talk today about appropriate revenues and fund balance utilization. We're going to talk about bond utilization and balances. We're talking about appropriate expenditures other than payroll and projected recapture amounts, which is very important. We're going to talk about projected revenues, expenditures, and fund balance utilization, and interest and sinking revenues and expenditures, which is the INS. That's our debt service, okay? We're gonna talk about teachers, librarians, RN, professional, auxiliary, and administrative salary schedules as recommended by TASB. We're gonna talk about substitute, extracurricular, and academic pay schedules. We're talking about health insurance cost comparison. And finally, we're gonna talk about the August 2020 budget calendar that we have, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Appropriated revenues and fund balance utilization, which is page 3 on your presentation. You can see what we did in 2018-19, 2019-20, and then 2020-21. Now, keep in mind that in 2019-20, as you recall, when we did our initial projections, we were actually gonna cut into fund balance somewhat, okay? But during the course of the year, the tax office has done a tremendous job of supplemental adjustments that they made. They found property that was not on the roll and so forth. So we're actually gonna be in the black this year, okay? Those are our predictions right now, okay? So that helped us out a lot. In 2020-21, we're projected to be $2 million over budget, okay? Now, sounds alarming, right? And it really does. But keep in mind that we've always planned for the downfall. It wasn't because of COVID that we planned for, it was because we planned for the downfall of our values going down. And remember, when we brought that to you all several years ago, we said, look, we're preparing in case our values drop and we don't get the money from the state, we're still gonna be okay. And I'll show you in a little bit when I do my spreadsheet, when I go out so many years, so you can see actually how we're doing, okay? I also want to remind you that that $2 million deficit also includes money for COVID expenditures, okay, that we're not always going to have, at least we hope we're not always going to have. But we're going through a kind of a very odd situation that we've never faced before, okay? And because we've never faced before, we're putting money in our budget to be able to handle those items. As you recall at the last presentation that I gave you, I told you that we put extra money in instruction, in health services, transportation, maintenance, and technology, okay? So all those 5 got a little bit more of a bump than normal because we need to be able to say, okay, if we have to buy more Chromebooks, we go through technology. We have stuff for instruction, we do that. If we need more masks than we think we were gonna use, we have that in the health services and so forth. So those are the items that are included in here. So just be aware of that, okay? The next item we're going to talk about is the bond utilization and fund balances. Okay? So in this one, as approved in the previous board meeting, $3 million will be utilized from fund balance to complete the elementary project for a total appropriated cost of $24 million. And as you all recall, several meetings back, you all made a determination that we were okay with spending $3 million from our fund balance towards completing the elementary up to $24 million is what you all approved for us, okay? Now, this will be included in the big spreadsheet that I show you all later on, okay? So just keep that in mind, those $3 million, okay? Let's talk about appropriated expenditures other than payroll and projected recapture amounts. I want you all to know that our budget goes up and down a lot sometimes because of the recapture and because of our values. You remember several years we were at 6.7 billion and then we dropped to a 4-point-something billion. So that big change in values changes our recapture amounts that we have to send back to the state. So the largest portion of our money right now is recapture money, okay, that we have to send back to the state. So, but I do want to tell you that if you look at our operating budget, it has changed from 2019 to 2020. You don't see a big increase, and that's because we're able to move monies around to make sure that we have monies for the COVID and so forth, okay? The recapture amount dropped from 49 million to 34 million. Okay? And that was basically because of the drop in the value. Okay? And then construction, we just put a small amount in there in case for incidentals that we have to have or whatever. Kind of just an in-case type of situation. but it's not a lot of money, it's only $28,000. On the next page, page 6, this is just a graph of what we just looked at, the numbers. Okay, so just kind of give you a visual, and that's all I wanted to do on that one. Now we want to look at projected fund balance totals. This spreadsheet shows the following: the 2020 through 2026 maintenance.
Mr. Vela, would you speak into the microphone,
Yes,
please?
sir. I'm moving around, and I apologize. The spreadsheet shows the following: the 2020 through 2026 maintenance and operations fund balance totals at the end of each year, utilizing TASB recommendation of the 3% salary increase schedules. As you'll recall, at the last board meeting, what I showed you all was the 3% that we were going to plug into the salary schedule. It's still up to the board to decide what y'all want to do, but that's what was plugged in, and that's what I showed y'all. Then you're going to have the 2020, 2026 interest and sinking revenues and expenditures, and all this is just our bond debt, okay? As you recall, when we approve a bond issue, the voters actually authorize the school district to tax whatever needs to be taxed to cover that cost, okay? And that's why all the bond issues go to the voters, because they're telling us it's okay. And whatever it's going to take to pay that debt, we're approving it, okay? Now, the first page, if you see highlighted in yellow at the very top, column E, that's kind of all the revenues that we have, and that's based, if you see the $5.4 billion, that's based on our certified values that we got from the tax office. So those numbers are plugged in, okay? And then we use a 95% collection rate to figure out how much money we're gonna get. It'll vary, okay? But that's kind of a good margin for us to use to say we're in a good position, okay? The rest of the items are just revenues that we received during the course of the year. Sometimes this year we did get some minerals because we own property there were some wells on our property, so we got a little bit of minerals. We get money from the apartment complex, as you recall. That's one of the items that we said that, when the rent comes in, it goes into the general fund and so forth. The next page, on page 9, is really kind of the key. This is the tell-all page, and I like to say that because this is, when you look at the bottom part of this page, this kind of really lets everybody know where we're at and how we stand as far as money-wise, as far as our finances are concerned. If you look at the bottom line, we're going to be over $2 million in our budget, okay? More than likely, hopefully, we won't spend it all, unless something drastic happens with COVID-19 that we end up spending it all. But more than likely, we probably will not spend it all, okay? But we have to appropriate because we just don't know, okay? We have to be there with the funding. We're going to be recapturing of $34 million. A little bit over $34 million is going to be part of our recapture, as I showed you before, okay? And that's based on the values that we get and so forth. All that gets plugged into a summary of finance formula from the state, and they pretty much tell you this is what you're going to have to pay back, okay? But if you go back to the very bottom columns that I have in gray and then ones in yellow, okay? The yellow one is the amount of the $3 million that we said we're going to spend on construction, okay? Now, the school district still has the option of going out for a bond issue at some point and covering that cost if we so desire, okay? And that'll be the direction that the board will give us if they decide at some point that we want to reimburse the school district for that amount of money, okay? But worst case scenario, or up to now, if we use the $3 million from fund balance and don't replenish it, okay? We don't go for a bond issue, we eat that amount. We will still be 16.46 years out after the year 2026. So what does that mean? That means if all our projections follow through the way we say they are, and based on the information that we have, we'll have enough money to last us till the year 2042, 2043, okay? That's way out there, okay? And the reason this is important because we've been very frugal with our money, we've saved our money, and we have enough to take us out. And the question that we had at the last board meeting, I think one of the board members was, well, what happens with that money? Well, that money stays there in case something happens that we have a drop in our values and we have to start utilizing that money. Now, we did say we don't want to go through a time where we have to let go of people. It gives us plenty of time to say, okay, you know what, we're going to have to go through a transition period, okay? If we know our values are going way down and we can't afford to hire extra people, then we go through attrition. And we start, compiling the work jobs and so forth to keep our people and not having to let anybody go. And that's kind of like the real main reason here, because it takes you way out there and it kind of lets you see that we're okay. Even though we're going to show a $2 million deficit this year, it's well planned, okay? It's not something that, oh God, we're gonna be out $2 million and we're not gonna have enough money to operate. No, we're gonna be out those $2 million if we spend every penny of it, but we still have plenty of money to take us out to further years that in case anything else happens, we'll be well covered. Sure.
Every year, there's an operating budget. Now, once the recapture is finalized or happens, let's say that we cut back, you said earlier that we're frugal. So let's say that we cut back on our operating budget, we save some money there. Let's say we use half of the construction. Is there a recapture? Is there another recapture, or
No,
whatever we
no.
save, that's pretty much what we keep?
Whatever we save, we get to put in our fund balance. That goes back into our fund balance, okay? But let me explain a little bit about recapture. The way recapture works is they take our final values, in other words, and not really our values, but more of what we collect, okay? So let's say, for example, if you recall at the beginning of the year, I need to go back and think, but I think we budgeted like 47 million for recapture, 46 to 47 million for recapture. Y'all remember that? And then now we're at 49 million. Because what happens is I have to go through the formula, okay, and re-enter all those numbers to say, we didn't collect 40 million. We collected 45 million instead of 40. And I'm just throwing numbers. It's not an exact figure, okay? But because we collected more than we preliminarily projected, then our recapture goes up. The state bases their recapture on what we collect, not what we say we're going to collect. They go through and they get the final result, because we have to send a report, say, okay, what was our final collection that we made in 2019 and 2020? And then what they do is they put that into the formula along with the final PEMS ADA numbers, okay? And if you notice, remember I showed you the formula last time where it shows all the weights of the kids? So a regular ed student is worth 1.0, and then a special ed child, depending on the severity, is worth 1.2, 1.3, so forth, and so forth. The state comp children and so forth are worth a little bit more money than the 1.0, okay? So what the state does is they take our ADA times the weight, which is the weighted ADA, and then they work that into the formula. Our job, my job, is to try to estimate and stay within range of what they're going to collect back. And that's why, you remember I brought back the budget amendment last board meeting, or a couple of board meetings ago, and I went from 46 or 47 to 49 million, because that's what I'm estimating the state is going to take back, okay? Now, we're not going to send them back on the 15th. We're not going to send them that amount, because they're going by what they projected last year. But in the final, what you were talking about, in the final, come September, they're going to send me a notice and say, boop, according to your ADA and according to what you collected, this is your final. So now you got to send us more money. And if Dr. Seals can tell you, they'll do a final right now, and then back next May, they'll do another final for whatever reason, but that's the way it works. And then we settle up in May, okay? So to answer your question, yes. Whatever's left over, we get to keep after recapture. And we put that money into our fund balance, okay? And then I add that money in there, and that's what I show you guys next year on the next year's budget, once it's audited, because we can't put anything in there until it's audited, and the auditor says, okay, this is officially how much you have left over. That money goes into fund balance, and then we project again. So every year I will bring you a new projection based on what we have, okay? And that's why a lot of times you'll see that we'll do a 3% increase, and we'll say we'll go out 5 years, or not 5 years, but we'll go out 10, 15 years. And the following year, we can do another 3%, and we could be out further or a little bit less, depending on how we end up, okay?
Mr. Vela,
Yes, sir.
I was just curious. The payments on the recapture, it's, what, do you have the actual dates in which that we pay the recapture, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And are they, how many months apart are they?
Okay, we have options, okay? Before HB3, as you recall, we would come to the board, and every month you'd see a big old payment of $4 million, $5 million, starting in February. From February all the way to August, we had to make a monthly payment. And TEA tells us how much we're supposed to send back, okay? This year, they did away with that. You can still pay them monthly, but they gave us the option to pay on August 15th. So what does that mean? That means that we opted not to give the money every month because we put that money in the pools and so forth to gain interest on that money.
Yeah, that was
so
my question.
we wanted to say,
Okay.
we're gonna hold on to this money as long as we can and try to make whatever little interest we can on it. And then, but by August 15th, we have to send that money. So when I present next month in September, we're gonna present the August expenditures, you're gonna see a very large amount of $46 to $47 million, okay? But we did that because we didn't wanna pay every month and lose that money. We kept it and tried to get as much interest as we could on it, okay? Now, on the next page, on page 10, this is the INS. This is the debt service, okay? All these bond issuances are approved by the voters, okay? So that means that whatever debt we owe, okay, we're authorized by the voters to tax them the rate that it's gonna take to pay this debt service, okay? So for next year, we're at $4.9 million that we have to pay back, okay? And usually there's a large payment in February and then the smaller payment in August that we have to make. We pay that twice a year, okay? But in this case, we don't have to go through rollback or any type of situations like that because the voters have already approved us to pay. When they passed the bond issue, they approved us to pay whatever tax rate we have to set to make that payment, okay? Now, the next item we're gonna talk about is the teachers, librarians, RNs, paraprofessionals, auxiliary and administrative salary schedules recommended by TASB. What I wanna do is refer to the extra sheet that Jeanette gave you, the little blue one. Did y'all get this one? Okay. Okay, yours is black and white, sorry. What I wanted to do was show you, and we already did this presentation with TASB, but I want to do this as a little reminder, okay? As I was saying earlier, as you recall, when we went to SB3 last year, in order for us to meet the mandate of the state for our teachers, we had to increase 6%, remember that? And then we did that across the board. And we do that across the board because our schedules are aligned, okay? So in other words, our administrative schedules, our teacher schedules, our paraprofessional schedules, and our auxiliary schedules they're all aligned by TASB, okay? So when we gave the 6%, or what equated to a 6% to the teachers, we did it across the board with all the other schedules. And that way, that keeps all the schedules aligned, okay? But we did that because it was mandated by SB3, that we had to spend a certain amount of money on our teachers. And we wanted to be fair to all the other schedules. Now, having said that, we went back again this year, which is a little out of the norm. We usually don't go back to back to do a salary survey. But the reason we did it was because we didn't know where we were gonna end up with, okay? Because everybody, as you recall last year, some schools that we're giving 9,000, we're giving 4,000, we're giving, everybody was saying they were giving all this kind of money, but no one knew at the end what was gonna happen. So that's why we went back this year again to see where we stood. Where did we finally settle up, and where are we compared to all the other schools? So if Daly or Persol went out and started bragging that they gave $12,000 to everybody, and we only gave a certain amount, well, let's see where we're at now. Let's see how we stand. And if you go to this page, the first one, it tells you all the school districts that we were compared to. We were compared to Carrizo, Crystal City, Divine, Dilley, George West, Jordanton, Carn City, even Laredo I.S.D. in some of those school districts. Okay, so there was a good comparison number of schools that they compared us to, and this was TASB that did it, we didn't do it, TASB did it, okay? Now, if you turn the page around, you're gonna see where Cotulla ISD was compared in the 2019-2020 school year. If you see the very bottom, that's where we would be if you didn't include our stipend. Okay? Yes?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, sir, you're fine.
Oh, okay. The bottom row, because y'all's in black and white, mine's in color. The bottom row is where we would be if we didn't include the stipend, okay? But, having said that, the top row is where we are with the stipend, and that's what our teachers are actually getting paid. They're getting paid the top row. So you can see we're way above the norm, okay? We're doing well, okay? I wanted y'all to see that because I want to refresh your memory back to what we had mentioned earlier with the salary survey by TASB, okay? Now, TASB did come in and do a salary survey, and what they recommended this year was a 3% increase across the board, okay? They actually, I'll take it back, they actually recommended a 2% and a 3%, okay? And what I brought to the board last time was a 3% that I included in the totals, okay? And that's what I presented. Right now, what we're looking at, and if you look at the teacher's schedule, the first one, it's actually a $1,600 increase to the stipend, okay? And remember, we're always adding to the stipend because we want to be safe in case we ever have to cut back. We're cutting back on the stipend and not on the salary, okay? But right now, the 3% increase would be a $1,600 increase to all the teacher stipends. So this year, away from Senate Bill 3, everybody, all our teachers would get their step, okay? So if they're in step 1, they go to step 2, whatever that small increase is, and then $1,600 above that, compared to what they were making last year, okay? Now, having said that, because we're raising the 3% to the teachers, which equates to the $1,600, in order to keep our schedules aligned, we're recommending, or we're looking at 3% to all the other schedules, okay? So all the schedules will be, that we're looking at will be at 3% increase, okay? And that's what I'm showing you here. Now, I will say it again. TASB recommended 2% and 3%, okay? What we're seeing here is the 3%, okay? So if we go through all these schedules, basically that's what you see there. Like if you do the administrative salary, the $10.26 on pay grade 1, that's an increase per day because those salaries are based on a daily rate, okay? If you look at the clerical and paraprofessional, and I'm just going to show you the first one. The first one is a 45-cent increase compared to last year per hour, because those are hourly employees, okay? And same thing with the auxiliary. Pay step 1 would be 39 cents above what they were making last year, okay? So that's what we have for the different salary schedules. Any questions on that one? Keep in mind that what I'm showing you is a 3% increase to all the salary schedules, okay? Now, on the next one was the substitute pay. We actually didn't do a study on this one. We actually increased it somewhat last year, and we brought it to y'all. TASB did not do a survey on this, okay? But if the board wants, later on, we can go back and look at it. But this recommendation is based on the same amount that we gave last year, okay? Same thing with the extracurricular activities. This is what TASB represented or gave us last year, and we're recommending, or we're showing it to you again this year. And the same thing with the academic extracurricular stipends. Now, keep in mind, we didn't change these because, again, we normally do it every 2 years. We do the survey every 2 years, and then we take that recommendation and we bring it to you guys every 2 years. The only reason we did the teachers is because SB3 was so weird in the way the way we heard everybody was getting different types of money, this was the only way that we could show you, okay, we are within range, or we are okay compared to other school districts our size in our areas, okay? Yes, ma'am.
This, we have assistant athletic director, because we have two athletic directors, are they both stipends for both of them? We don't have just athletic director on there.
We only have one athletic director, ma'am.
Where is that on there? Or is anybody seeing it and I'm not?
We have an athletic director, and we have
But on the schedule, did you,
and we have an assistant athletic director. Yes, he's not, yeah, the athletic director is not on this schedule because it's not they're not on a teacher scale. Our assistant director is on a teacher scale, so then that's why you see that one. Yes, ma'am. Okay, on the following page, we're gonna show our health insurance. And, you know, if you all remember way back, the smaller school districts were kind of forced to go with the state. Those of you that have been on the board long enough remember that. Remember before we used to be able to get Humana and used to be able to get all these other insurances. But then at a certain point, the state said, no, you're locked in with us and we have to pretty much stay with the state. So that's what this is. I do want to show everybody that they came out with a new plan. Last year we had 3, which was formerly the HD1, the Select, and then the top TRS Active Care 2. Now, the TRS Active Care 2, which is kind of like the high end, they're not taking any more enrollments. In other words, if you had it last year, you can take it, but if you didn't have it last year, that's not going to be offered to anyone, any new people, okay? And what they're offering are the other 3, which anyone can enroll. Also, the fact that you can have one plan this year, and you can enroll in a different plan next year. So it's up to the employee. So we bring it to the employee, and then they make a decision as to which plan they want to take. We explain to them all the different plans and the different options, but it's their choice, okay? The only one, like I said, that they don't have an option to join is the TRS Active Care 2, unless you were already in it. If you were previously in it, then you're okay. You can keep it if you want, or you can go down to one of the other plans if you want, okay? Now let's go over the August 2020 budget. And you saw this last time. And today we're doing the second budget hearing. And today also at the next board meeting, at the special board meeting, y'all will make a decision when you want to present the proposed tax rate and so forth. Okay? And we'll go through the process. On the 17th, we'll have the regular board meeting. And then on the 24th will be our actual, if approved by y'all, we'll have our actual truth in taxation, where we have to go out and publish the tax rate and publish all these different things in the paper, and then you all will come in and vote on the proposed tax rate, okay? At that meeting, we'll also, and I'm just going through the agenda, at that meeting, we'll also present our final budget amendment, and that's where we come in and kind of put a little bit of money in all the different functions, just so we don't go over in case we get a surprise. I'll give you an example, recapture, let's say, for whatever reason, or ADA and whatever we get, they're gonna charge us another $500,000. So we kind of put money, and that's just an example. It's not saying they're gonna charge us extra, okay? But I'm just saying that's where we come in and move the monies around so we can be safe. And that way what happens is, you know, even if you're $1 over in the audit, if you're $1 over in a function, it's a finding, okay? So we kind of do this to prevent anything like that, okay? Kind of protect our school district. Also, when we do these things, it helps our rating, it helps everything else when we have a good audit, okay? Okay, in conclusion, we've talked about appropriated revenues and fund balance utilizations. We talked about bond utilization and balances. We talked about appropriate expenditures other than payroll and projected recapture amounts. We talked about projected revenues, expenditures, and fund balance totals, utilizing requirements and interest in sinking revenues and expenditures. We talked about the teachers, librarians, RN, paraprofessionals, and auxiliary salaries as recommended by TASB. We talked about substitute salaries. We talked about health insurance cost comparison, and we talked about the August calendar. Now, are there any questions that y'all want me to answer, that you have questions on? Okay. I do want to say that, you know, all of us, not just me and Dr. Z, all of us have done a real good job. I think we do a good job of presenting, but I also think you all do a very good job of listening to the information and asking the right questions when you don't understand something so you can make good decisions. So in that instance, I think we're doing a great job for the kids, and that's what it's about. Okay? Thank you very much.
Mr. Vella, we really appreciate all that y'all do.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I move we adjourn.
I have a motion adjourned by Ms. Childers. Have a second? Second by Mr. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor, motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.